Europe is in a fairly good spot compared to the rest of the world. If we look towards the US, the grids are in a significantly worse state, same in other parts of the world. That said, we are entering a new era where the amount of threats and challenges for running stable electricity grids are on the rise.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Energy Frontiers, our monthly series exploring the global energy landscape from right here in Baku, Azerbaijan. This month we're asking, how do we build resilient networks for the future as electrical grids, transmission lines, oil and gas pipelines, ports and other energy installations are increasingly coming under threat, with hazards ranging from cyber to physical attacks to damage from extreme weather. We'll be putting all of these questions and more to Kristian Ruby, the Secretary General of Eurelectric. But first, here's a quick look at where we stand today.
Renewables will dominate Europe's electricity generation by 2050, so the need for more flexible, decentralized and secure infrastructure is urgent. At the same time, cyber attacks on Europe's energy sector have surged, threatening the stability and resilience of critical systems. Eurelectric, the Federation of Europe's electricity industry, also points to risks linked to climate change. It says weather damage to aging grids has risen exponentially in recent years, underscoring the vulnerability of existing infrastructure. It also suggests that EU countries and Norway must invest around 67 billion euros per year until 2050 to upgrade and future-proof their grids through the energy transition.
I'm delighted to say that joining me now from the Bulgarian capital, Sofia, is Kristian Ruby, the Secretary General of Eurelectric.
Kristian, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here today.
Great to see you here.
Kristian, let me start by asking you about the resilience of Europe's electricity grid. When you strip away the political rhetoric and you look at the robustness, the preparedness of the power networks, how protected are they from simultaneous risks?
So the answer is that Europe is in a fairly good spot compared to the rest of the world. If we look towards the US, the grids are in a significantly worse state, same in other parts of the world. That said, we are entering a new era where the amount of threats and challenges for running stable electricity grids are on the rise. We have sabotage, we have hot wars, we have cyber attacks, and we have extreme weather. This is all making it much more difficult to deliver electricity reliably. That said, there are regions where the infrastructure is more robust. For instance, in the Nordics, this is also a region that is more interconnected than the others.
You advocate for decentralization and greater flexibility, but some critics might say that that simply shifts the risks from central grids to millions of poorly regulated local ones.
The technological development is basically putting us in a situation where a lot of things are decentralizing by themselves. We have millions of new generation sites entering the grid, and there's no stopping that because this is the most cheap and most available technology. What we need to do as system operators is to make sure that we can handle such a situation reliably. This new, more decentralized system comes with advantages. It is more resilient, and we've seen, for instance, in Ukraine that it is easier to bomb a centralized power plant rather than a whole bunch of decentralized solar installations. So there are also upsides when it comes to the resiliency of a more decentralized system. But the challenge we have in Europe is to make sure that this very decentralized system also operates in a reliable way. And this is where the centralized machines come in to make sure that there is system stability and that there is backup if the sun goes away or the wind is not available.
Would you say that the war in Ukraine has permanently shifted energy mindsets, not least in terms of how we protect our energy networks?
I was in Ukraine earlier this year to visit a power plant that had been bombed more than 10 times throughout the 3 years of war. And it was just amazing to see exactly what that means to work at a plant that is actively being targeted in a war situation. The roof was missing. walls and windows have been blown out, pylons were wrought in grotesque shapes, really massive destruction at this site. And I don't think that this level of destruction has really dawned on European operators. But I do think that there is a need to understand that we have to have a level of preparedness. We need to move into a different type of operation when it comes to planning, exercising, and having direct contact to the authorities. We are in a different space than we used to, and we do see that in these war situations, civil infrastructure is being targeted just because it's so important for society and its ability to defend itself.
Tell me more about the risk of replacing one dependency with another as we move increasingly away, we hope, from fossil fuels. Are we not looking to be more dependent on rare earths, lithium, cobalt, for example?
This is certainly something we need to be aware of, and this is also why that we shouldn't walk into a single technology path for the energy transition. That said, I think it's important to underline that there are a number of very strong European supply chains in the electricity space. We have a strong wind industry in Europe. We are very good at producing gas turbines. We have a lot of manufacturing sites for grid equipment, transformers, cables, et cetera, et cetera. And we also have a nuclear industry. So there are a number of European industries that can gain directly from this. And then we need to gauge carefully the other stuff we import so that we don't replace one dependency with another.
Lastly, Kristian, if you had just 1 minute to meet and brief negotiators and policymakers on the ground in Brazil at COP30, what would you urge them to prioritize?
It's a good question. I think there's some very interesting developments in the climate negotiations where for the first time, the focus begins to shift on clean energy infrastructure such as renewables, as grids, et cetera, et cetera. That's a very welcome development. The other thing where we could do more is our interconnectors with our neighbors. If we look at Northern Africa, there's a potential for clean energy that we could harness more. If we look towards Turkey, for instance, or other neighbors, there is a potential to work more together and trade energy more than we're doing today.
That's all we have time for, Kristian, but thank you so much for joining me from Bulgaria.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It just also remains for me to thank you, our global audience, for joining me here for this broadcast of Energy Frontiers from Baku in Azerbaijan. I'll see you again next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.